car accident settlement amounts in Colorado. Hi, I'm Christopher Nicolason, the owner and CEO at Springs Law Group, and today I wanted to talk to you about car accident settlement amounts in Colorado and all of the iterations and variations that come along with it, the ins and outs that go with it. So let's talk first about what exactly a settlement amount is and what all it entails. So at the end of a case, there's going to be a settlement amount, and that amount is going to have a bunch of different sections to it. It's generally going to have components like your amount that you're going to receive as your, what you receive in pocket. So the injured party, what you receive in pocket. Then it's going to have the attorney's fee. So what the attorney or the law firm gets paid. It's also then going to have your costs or things that were fronted by the law firm that then had to be paid back to the law firm. So those would be things like requesting police reports or paying for and getting medical records and bills, things like that. Next, it's going to have things like your medical bills that have to be paid back. So your medical bills that have to be paid back to the medical care providers. It would have a detailed, summarized list of everything that has to be paid back there as well. So within your own payment back though too, and the way that we get to the settlement as a whole comes from a bunch of different variations. And those are going to be coming from, so the total settlement amount is going to be coming from your non-economic damages, your economic damages. So let's talk first about each of those. Your non-economic damages are going to be things like your pain and suffering and your quality of life. So your ouches and things like that, but not your actual medical bills themselves. The effect that it had on you, right? So did I have, certain activities that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do since the injuries from the crash? Non-economic damages. Economic damages are usually a little easier to calculate. They're going to be your actual medical bills themselves. They're going to be lost wages. So if you had to miss time for work or use PTO that was not intended for work, for using to go to medical treatment, you're going to use that PTO then instead for going to see medical and treatment, right? Economic damages are going to be things like your actual medical bills themselves and lost wages. Lost wages are going to be like when you've missed time for work to go to medical appointments, or if you've had to use PTO to miss time for work to go to medical appointments. You can make a claim for those lost wages as well as part of your economic damages too. So that's kind of how we get to the total number. And then we end up with that breakdown that we talked about there in the beginning. So that's how we start figuring out what is your actual settlement amount. So one of the things too, though, that a lot of people don't think about when they're thinking about the settlement amount though too, is the emotional toll that being in a car crash can actually have on you. And I talk to a lot of people about, how they are driving today. What kind of a driver are they now since they've been in the crash? And a lot of people are like, I'm not the same. And the reality is they've actually had a traumatic event happen to them. Being in a crash is truly a traumatic event, and people can have PTSD from it. And so for us here, it's really important not only that we take care of the injuries that we can see, right? The physical injuries, but also the injuries up here, in your head that you're going through, right? The anxiety, the depression, the ability to be afraid, that you're afraid now, when you get in a car. So we want to make sure too that we get you in touch with a professional, and that you also have a team of people that are a listening ear for you as you're going through this. Because there's going to be frustrations that happen too. As you're a different driver now, you may have certain frustrations, and those frustrations honestly are different than who you were before. But they should also be addressed when you are working towards your settlement amount that you want to receive. Because don't just throw those off to the side just because it's not fixing a physical injury. They have value because it's different than who you were before the crash. You now have these issues: anxiety, depression, fear. And so those are something that should absolutely hold a place at the table and be heard by the at-fault insurance company when you're negotiating. So make sure you don't, discount or undercut the importance and the need to be compensated for those emotional injuries as well. So one of the things that we try to do here at Springs Law Group is really combine two things. It's combining our years of legal experience in the personal injury area and our customer service. I'm somebody that's not, I came into law later in life, and I worked retail and restaurants for a long time. And we can all think about, a good restaurant experience that we've had, right? The drinks were refilled on time. I got the check and I didn't have to sit around and wait. The food was really good. The waiter didn't linger too long, things like that. And I've always thought about it like that as somebody that owns a personal injury law firm, to where it's like, what does good customer service look like for somebody, working with a lawyer in a law firm? Well, and the biggest thing that we think about is communication and being open and upfront as to the positives in your case, but also to the drawbacks in your case as well too, and really letting you know those too. And so we're not going to sugarcoat things if you've got something poor happening. We're also going to celebrate with you whenever you've got a win happening as well. And so we're really going to make sure that we're open and honest with you throughout your case as a whole, but we're also communicating with you in a manner that you want to be communicated. If that's by text, if that's by email, or if it's by phone call, we're happy to talk to you. And the nice thing is too, is if you want to get a hold of your lawyer, you can just talk to your paralegal and say, hey, I'd like to have a 30-minute conversation with my attorney. They'll schedule it for you, and you can have a phone call with your attorney at any time. So we want to make sure you're getting both the legal advice side of it, but also really good customer service as well. So there are many factors that go into coming up with the actual settlement amount as we're thinking about settlement amounts in a car accident case. And so we start first generally with your medical bills and costs, right? So your medical bills and your treatment. So how much was that? And then we can look at things like lost wages. And then we also take a look too about any other financial loss that you've had through this process. Then additionally, we want to take a look at your non-economic costs, and so your non-economics are going to be things like quality of life, pain and suffering, and we call those your human damages, right? Things that happen to you as a human as a result of the crash, ways that you're different today than you would have been had the crash not happened. And then lastly, we want to think about too, is there any future medical treatment that you're going to need, any physical impairment or disfigurement? So do you have scarring from the crash? Do you have scarring from a surgery? So those are all things that we would look at as well as we're preparing your settlement amount. And then what we do is we send that out to the at-fault insurance company and we ask to negotiate, to have a conversation back and forth, which you will be a part of. And we're going to walk you through each step of the way. And what I always like to say is we're kind of like that Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder, just giving you advice along the way when we get an offer from them. And then we're going to tell you the highs and lows of accepting it. We think it's really important though too that you kind of have a range in mind that's a realistic range whenever it comes to a settlement amount. So you want to pick your best case and your worst case and have a middle there as well. That'll work for you too. Because not every day is going to be just your hit it out of the park grand slam case, and sometimes there's a strikeout. So you got to figure out what does your double or your middle look like as well. And then the other thing is too, if the at-fault insurance company doesn't have enough insurance to truly cover everything for you, make sure too that you check your own insurance policy for uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage here in Colorado. We think it's really important that everyone have it, so that way you're protecting yourself and relying on yourself and not on the insurance of others to help and protect you too if you're in a serious crash. And so that's a really, really good way to make sure that you're covered. So a way that you can do that is check your declarations page on your insurance and see if you have UM/UIM coverage, or call your insurance representative. So if you're looking for personalized representation and want to reach out and have any questions from this video, we recommend reaching out. And what we'll do is we'll just walk you through our process. We have a very streamlined process on how we do a case, but then it's also, we'll just talk to you too about what happened and what issues you're having and what questions you have. We'll give you room to ask questions, and there are no wrong questions to ask at all. This isn't something you go through every single day, so we highly recommend that you take time to, jot down and think about questions. One thing that I always try to do too is after a consultation is say, hey, if after this call you think of something, or you're talking to your partner or your spouse and you guys come up with another question, feel free and reach back out and ask those questions, because we're happy to answer them. So feel free and let us know what those questions look like. But through that too, you can just reach out to us at Springs Law Group and ask us, hey, I was just entered in a crash. Is there a way that I could go through the intake process, get some information, and see if we're a good fit? And that's kind of how we can get that approach going right there. One thing we do know though too is at any point in time, if you're injured in a crash, it's always important to reach out and get expert legal advice and information. Information is power. So we highly recommend reaching out to a personal injury lawyer and asking them questions, getting some information. And at Springs Law Group, as personal injury lawyers, we are here for you. We believe that you matter and that you have a voice. And we want to make sure that you have the ability to ask questions and be heard without any judgment. And so you can reach out to us at any time at springslawgroup.com or call us at 719-300-7554. We are happy to talk, and we're happy to see if you've got a case where we would be a good fit and can help each other out.